April 13th, 2013. At the bustling Hussein Sastranegara International Airport in Indonesia, 108 souls board Lion Air Flight 1904. Among them, 101 passengers and 7 crew members, all set for a brief voyage from Bandung on the island of Java to Denpasar, Bali. A journey that promises to last just over an hour on the airline's pride and joy, the Boeing 737-800. This aircraft, a symbol of cutting-edge aviation, is a mere 53 days old, having just rolled off the assembly line. Its engines, the mighty CFM56, roar with the promise of power and precision. Inside the cockpit, the air is tinged with the scent of new upholstery and plastic, a testament to its recent manufacture. With only 142 hours of flight time, this jet is a marvel of modern engineering, a dream for any pilot. Lion Air, Indonesia's largest private carrier at the time, was fiercely expanding its fleet, acquiring dozens of such aircraft to outpace competitors. In the left seat sits 48-year-old Captain Mahloob Ghazali, a seasoned aviator with a staggering 15,000 flight hours, 6,000 of which are on the Boeing 737 next generation. He knows this aircraft as intimately as one knows their own hand. Beside him, in the right seat, is 24-year-old First Officer Chirag Kalara, already boasting 1,200 flight hours. This duo represents the quintessential modern aviation partnership, where the young co-pilot learns from the wisdom of the veteran captain. Yet, despite the perfect blend of a new aircraft and an experienced captain, there lurks an insidious peril, the phenomenon known as the trap of technological perfection. It's a seductive danger where the crew's confidence in the machine's infallibility leads to complacency. The belief that the aircraft can correct any error, however subconscious, dulls vigilance. But the immutable laws of aerodynamics show no mercy, regardless of the plane's manufacture date. Though the clock barely strikes noon, the crew has already completed 3 flights, with this being their 4th before a well-deserved rest. The pre-flight preparations unfold as routine, yet beneath this facade lies a critical detail. On the previous flight, a warning light for engine oil filter bypass flickered in the cockpit, indicating a potential clog in the right engine's oil filter. Technicians replaced the filter, yet upon landing in Bandung, the issue resurfaced. Suspecting a faulty pressure sensor, engineers deemed it non-critical to safety. But in aviation, even the smallest oversight can cast long shadows. The defect was reclassified as a deferred maintenance item. This designation allowed the aircraft to continue flying for 10 more days. Although the filter issue was minor, it added a psychological weight to the crew. Imagine piloting a brand new aircraft that's already showing signs of trouble. It's distracting. Moreover, this was their 4th rotation, and the pilots had been airborne for over 5 hours. Accumulated fatigue is not just sleepiness, it's a cognitive fog. Information processing slows down, and the brain tends to rely on simpler, habitual solutions, often ignoring warning signals. As the pilots completed their pre-flight preparations, they requested a tow. Taxiing to the runway at precisely 12:48, the air traffic controller granted them permission for takeoff. The engines roared to life, and the Boeing 737 lifted off the runway at Bandung Airport, setting course for Bali. The flight proceeded smoothly, cruising at an altitude of 39,000 feet, or 11,900 meters. The journey to Bali would take about an hour and a half, 90 minutes of calm before the storm. 1 hour into the flight, at 13:48, Flight 904 approached the island of Bali. Co-pilot Chirag Kalara was at the controls, tasked with the landing, while Captain Ghazali acted as the monitoring pilot, a standard procedure. Commanders often allow younger pilots to practice landings in favorable conditions, and the conditions were indeed promising. The weather report promised visibility of 10 kilometers and cloud cover at 500 meters, a typical tropical afternoon. But then, the air traffic controller delivered unsettling news. Due to dense traffic, the Bali controller directed the aircraft towards the waypoints Tolot and Kuta. The crew was instructed to perform a non-precision approach using the VOR-DME system to runway 9, instead of the more precise ILS approach to runway 27. Let's delve into what this means. Most modern landings utilize the ILS system, providing high-precision guidance for aircraft to the runway, allowing for automatic or manual landings even in poor visibility by offering pilots precise course and glide path information. However, the VOR-DME is a non-precision approach. Pilots must rely on a radio beacon and distance measuring equipment, which demands far more from the crew. Mastery of flight demands constant vigilance. Pilots must meticulously align their descent with the shoreline, checking against precise tables. Bali's runway approach, however, presents a unique technical challenge. The beacon is positioned such that the approach path is skewed by 4 degrees relative to the runway's centerline. This means the pilot approaches not directly head-on, but at a slight angle. On a clear day, this is manageable, but in a storm, it becomes a deadly trap. As the Boeing descends, the weather shifts rapidly. In the tropics, towering cumulonimbus clouds can mushroom in mere minutes. The radar in the control tower lacks meteorological layers. It shows only aircraft blips, not the impending wall of rain that has formed. By 2:08 in the afternoon, the aircraft is at 1,000 feet, roughly 2 nautical miles from the runway, a mere 300 meters up. The co-pilot informs the captain, 1,000, stabilized, continuing. Everything seems on track, yet just 9 seconds later, the situation spirals out of control. The co-pilot anxiously reports, "I can't see the runway." The captain responds, "Okay, I see the approach lights, continue." Here, the captain makes a critical error. Regulations for the DME approach to runway 9 dictate a minimum descent altitude of 465 feet or 142 meters. This is the law. If the runway is not visible at this altitude, not just approach lights or the shoreline, but the actual runway, you must initiate a go-around. Despite 15,000 hours of flight experience, the captain decides that the approach lights suffice, disregarding how the rain ahead acts not merely as water, but as an optical lens distorting the space around them. At 2:09, at 550 feet or 167 meters, the co-pilot disengages the autopilot and auto-throttle. Now, the 60-ton aircraft is under manual control. The torrential rain pounds against the windshield with a ferocity unique to tropical downpours. Visibility plummets from 10 kilometers to mere hundreds of meters in seconds. The captain, noting a drop in speed, instructs the co-pilot, "Speed's low." The co-pilot acknowledges, "Got it, correcting." At this moment, the aircraft enters the heart of the downpour. Darkness envelops them, as if someone extinguished the sun. The aircraft descends to 150 feet, or 45 meters. The Boeing hurtles through the rain at 250 kilometers per hour. The co-pilot's voice trembles. "Take control, I can't see the runway." The captain replies, "I have control." The commander grips the control column, but his vision is obscured by a blinding haze. Instead of swiftly applying full thrust and executing a go-around, he struggles to find the ground with his eyes. Engine thrust decreases alarmingly to 42%. This is disastrously insufficient to maintain level flight in such conditions. The aircraft's descent rate exceeds 1,000 feet per minute. It is not flying, it is plummeting along a shallow trajectory. In the cockpit, the ground proximity warning system blares. The altitude is a mere 20 feet. The commander shouts desperately, "Go around, go around!" He pushes the throttle levers forward, but physics is relentless. The Boeing 737 is no fighter jet. It is an inertia-laden machine. From the moment the pilot commands a go-around to the engines reaching full power, precious seconds tick by. Moreover, transitioning from descent to climb causes the aircraft to sag. Boeing experts have calculated that in such a configuration, the airliner loses about 30 feet of altitude, but with only 20 feet to spare, they are out of room. At precisely 14:10 hours, the tail of the aircraft strikes the waters of Jimbaran Bay, a mere 300 meters from the runway's threshold. The impact is so violent that the fuselage of the brand-new Boeing splits in two. The tail section nearly detaches, the main landing gear is torn off, and the engines are ripped from their pylons. The aircraft comes to a halt in the shallows, just 65 feet from the shoreline. Water surges into the cabin instantly. This could have been the tragic end akin to the most harrowing air disasters. Yet, what transpired next was nothing short of miraculous. Despite the fuselage fracture, the jet fuel did not ignite. The crash site was in water only 6 to 16 feet deep. The flight attendants performed flawlessly, opening all emergency exits within seconds. Passengers began to evacuate onto the wings, while local residents, fishermen and surfers who witnessed the crash rushed into the water. They paddled out on surfboards, rescuing people from the sea. Airport rescue services arrived within 2 minutes. Astonishingly, all 108 souls survived. However, as medical personnel tended to the injured, investigators from Indonesia's National Transportation Safety Committee were already posing difficult questions. The foremost query? How could two seasoned pilots fail to realize they were descending into the ocean? In January 2017, the head of the National Agency for Trade Safety, in the heart of a storm, a chilling truth emerged from the skies above Budevo. The commander of the ill-fated Gazalia flight was rumored to have been under the influence of mind-altering substances. Allegedly, he mistook the vast expanse of the sea for an extension of the runway. Yet, as whispers of scandal swirled, an official investigation decisively quashed these claims. Toxicology tests returned negative. The reality was far more mundane, yet deeply unsettling. Situational awareness had slipped away in the chaos. As the aircraft descended into a torrential downpour, the commander fixated on the approach lights, trusting his seasoned instincts over the instruments designed to guide him. The parametric data recorder reveals a tale of escalating peril. Upon disengaging the autopilot at the critical decision altitude of 465 feet, the flight profile wavered. Airspeed dwindled and the descent rate soared. The crew had violated a cardinal rule of jet piloting, maintaining a stable pitch and power profile. They failed to uphold this vital principle. At the core of the catastrophe lay a breakdown in crew resource management, or CRM. The second pilot, a mere 24 years old, twice voiced his inability to see the runway. Trained to insist on a go-around in such scenarios, he found himself in the daunting presence of a veteran with an imposing 15,000 flight hours. In the cultural fabric of Indonesia and the hierarchical structure of many airlines, the chasm of authority is vast. The young officer hesitated to seize control or challenge his superior's decision. He simply stated, "I don't see the runway," and waited for the commander to act. Meanwhile, the commander, ensnared by tunnel vision, continued his perilous approach. The commander's dossier revealed a telling pattern. As far back as 2007, a simulator instructor had noted his propensity to persist with landings, even when the approach was not stabilized. 6 years later, this trait re-emerged at the most inopportune moment. The Indonesian Investigation Committee concluded with stark findings. The disaster stemmed from the continuation of descent below the decision height without visual contact with the runway, an unstable approach at dangerously low airspeeds, and a belated decision to abort the landing at a mere 6 meters, rendering recovery impossible. In the aftermath, Lion Air was compelled to overhaul its pilot training protocols. Simulator programs now mandated scenarios involving unstable approaches in adverse weather, paired with CRM training to empower co-pilots to voice dissent. The incident and preliminary investigation findings led to a decisive shift. Lion Air severed ties with those unable to adapt to this new era of aviation safety. The aircraft shuddered as it neared the runway, carrying 101 passengers and 7 crew members. Against all odds, every soul aboard survived the harrowing ordeal. Yet the relief was bittersweet. The pilot's decisions during those critical moments were scrutinized and ultimately deemed flawed. This judgment cast a long shadow over their career, effectively closing doors at major airlines. The incident serves as a stark reminder of the razor-thin line between heroism and error in the high-stakes world of aviation. In this tale of survival, the echoes of that fateful flight linger, leaving us to ponder the delicate balance of human judgment and machine precision.